and welcome to Vilnius Tech Leads. For those of you joining us for the first time, I will describe in short what Vilnius Tech Leads is all about. We're a meetup group for various technical leaders, tech leads, engineering managers, engineering directors, CTOs, and many others to share and learn on various topics that would be of interest. Since our first meetup in 2017, we've covered many different topics: how to give feedback, how to manage changes, cloud technologies, time management, distributed teams, and many others. All of these topics are relevant and interesting to technical leaders. In this meetup group, we believe that leadership is something you learn, not something you're born with. And as you can probably guess from me mentioning all these topics, unlike some other meetups, each of our meetups has a specific topic, a theme. And today's theme is mental health. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It can even affect our physical health. I myself have experienced that when I had some strong anxiety through pain in one of my eyes. I was quite confused as to why my eye is hurting and sought help from eye doctors before I finally figured out that it's caused by something that's going on in my head. We can't lead others, and I speak from experience, if we ourselves are not okay mentally. We have to take care of our own mental health, and we have to know how to help the people in our teams to take care of theirs. As always in Vilnius Tech Leads, we have a couple of speakers who agreed to share their stories and their experience. That's Veronica and Nina. If you have any questions to them, please write them in the YouTube chat. I'll be following the chat closely, and I will ask those questions to the speakers after their talks. Today is also our final meetup before a summer break. We hope to come back with more Vilnius Tech Leads this autumn, and hopefully we'll be able to finally do these events again offline. Now, without further ado, let's get back to the topic, mental health. Our first speaker is Veronica, and you can take the mic.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me here, and thank you so much for an introduction and possibility to be here. Well, a million thanks to you, obviously, who switched on Zoom to hear what I have to say about mental health, probably just before you guys open TV and then watch Eurovision. Well, maybe some of you. So my name is Veronica, lovely to meet you. And today I want to share a story with you, my story on unboxing mental health, or rather finding balance in change. And hopefully maybe some of you to inspire to train your mind the same way we train our bodies. So my life has never been linear. I didn't study law to stand by people. I didn't study medicine to heal people. Neither did I study psychology to support people or become an HR. If I could put my personal story in one word, that would be metamorphosis. The change is the constant, and I'm a living example of it. I grew up in Bulgaria, went to school in Lithuania, and then moved to Germany for my studies and later work. I called new places home many times. And well, every change is crisis for the mind and need time to adapt. So I did it on multiple occasions. As a child, I attended music school. I played my beloved violin, played piano, I was in an orchestra. After 6 years, I had to quit as I was admitted to the hospital twice. Well, I guess my body didn't catch up with me back then. Having music taken away from me, I searched for ways of expression in NGOs. Well, I went on and I found Vilnius School Student Union, as well as I was an interim president for Lithuanian School Student Union. Well, I left due to internal conflicts, well, politics, you know. So I went on with vocal lessons. And I had a teacher, an opera teacher. I wanted to sing arias so badly. But before applying to Conservatory of Music, and probably maybe some of you know, you have to check your vocal cords. Well, because they have to say, is it good? Is it bad? Can you actually study? So, well, the doctor looked at me and told me, well, please sit down, and continued. So you can never sing professionally. I give you maximum 5 years until you lose your voice. If you want to talk, you have to stop now, because you won't be able to. So my life was cut into pieces again. And so I moved to Germany to study international business with actually no real plan of what to do. After my studies, I worked in a music label, which was great fun because it was in Berlin. And obviously, if you know Berlin, if you love techno, this is a place to be. I then started to work in films and ads, and I went to study again. And so I did my master's, after which I had finally found 2 places to choose from job-wise. So I could choose between London and San Francisco. Planned, comfortable, change, finally. But meant plans and got less. So very accidentally, I met love of my life. Love with not having enough to breathe, walking on clouds, not having, well, any precise orientations where I am, what to do, what I have to do. So that kind of love. And so I changed my plans of change. I stayed in Germany, moving cities like I used to do. So 2 years ago, my marriage has ended. And since then, I moved 7 times. But this time, I sought help. And since then, I have my therapy, and that's regular. And this is actually one of the things that I advise everyone to have and to have reflection on. So my latest change, I quit my well-paid job, the peaks and securities in Germany, and that all for Mindletic. So jump into unknown again. It's not a myth, but rather a scientifically proven fact that our bodies and minds change every 7 years. Therefore, sabbatical. And well, some say even 12 years, if you believe in stars. So my changes feel very much fast forward, as my biggest strength at the moment, I think, is adaptation to any easy situation. So in an easy way, if I find myself in a dead end, I find a door. Or in a hard way, if there is no door to be found, I install 3 doors. And today, I'm very happy that I ask help if I need to find the doors. So taming metamorphosis, or rather finding a balance in change, became my quest. This has never been more accurate and has never been more important than in these times of crisis. I don't need to tell you statistics, but more than half of us worldwide are exhausted. We feel more stressed, we are overwhelmed, we look for help much more than we used to do, which is actually good. But ask someone close to you, how are you? And then ask really, how are you really? Not okay. And that's okay, not to be okay. Emotional balance does not mean to always be okay, peaceful, happy, satisfied, excited, ecstatic, whatever you name it, whatever you take it. This is kind of illusion. It's not about that. It's about balancing between energy and pleasantness levels and having tools to regulate own emotions. So here's a tip from me that helped me deal in times of change. Think of emotions as yin and yang. When you feel anger, something is wrong. But feeling anger helps you to change the course because you can change it. Sadness, on the other hand, helps to reconcile with something you can't change, and eventually you accept things the way they are. Happiness, when we think such a beautiful thing, can in so many ways be an illusion, especially as feeling okay and happy became some kind of like a norm. So my favorite is fear. Fear of unknown. Fear that drives creativity to manage new situations and find solutions. Well, and Mindletic, the mental gym, which I represent today, was born exactly out of it. How can we adapt in a new situation? And more importantly, how can we take care of our minds? So at Mindletic, we believe that taking care of your mental health should become a routine, like brushing teeth, doing sports. And emotional fitness is a continuum, is not a single injection. Therefore, it's a verb. It's never a noun. So having that in mind, almost a year and a couple of months ago, we created a mental gym at the workplace where we invite employees to a safe place to train their mind, similarly as they do train their bodies in gym. So in Mindletic Mental Gym, you can identify your current state. Our emotions tracking system is an evidence-based and inspired by Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. It allows you to name your emotional state in a simple 4-color graph depicting a range of 100 different emotions. So this system measures emotions according to the energy and pleasure. The coordinates can be used to determine how you feel now. When we are at the top of the purple box, for instance, our emotions are unpleasant and have a lot of energy. So that would be something like anger, frustration, anxiety. You can also, in our mental gym, reflect on how you felt a week or a month ago. You can also see trends. You can also see your trending emotions. So see those two as a smartwatch on your arm that helps you to monitor your emotional fitness. You can also train individually by lifting your emotional muscle. In self-care part, there are breathing exercises which you can take, which you can make. There are articles you can read. And one of my favorite parts is we have an instant tips, which are developed by our psychologists that are depending on previously marked emotion. So let's say if you marked anxiety, or if you marked, anxiety. So the tip could be something like, notice your breathing, 2 breathing exercises in our app, or maybe go out for a walk. You can also train in a group in the community rooms. So you can share the thoughts, you can read the thoughts, you can support each other, and you can also find insights on mental health. And then last but not least, have a personal training session. Talk to one of our most wonderful certified professionals. So Mindletic was a great change for me and a lucky one so far. I know now for sure that being part of Mindletic journey to help others to find their emotional balance is what eventually helps me to find mine. So the only constant is change. And I happen to know a perfect tool for you that helps to manage your emotional balance. In fact, I am part of the team that is building it. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. In case you want to know more, be it my story, Mindletic, drop me an email. And I invite you to train your minds the same way we train our bodies. So that's it for me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Veronica. You mentioned that being balanced emotionally doesn't mean that you're always happy. Could you expand on that with a couple of examples?
Yeah, well, you see, if you take only a momentum and you say, I actually, usually this is the case, then, someone is asking you, how do you feel? Like, how are you? You can take a very moment, then you have, let's say, after a very ugly meeting, they say, well, life is horrible. I hate it. I feel stressed. So you can take just that momentum. But if you look in the long run, if you just look for generally how you are, then this is, where you should actually look much more. So the balance is not on just one emotion and one thing, but the balance is that you balance these kind of things that, being stressed, such an unpleasant thing, stressed, and also balancing out the super happiness, like ecstatic feeling, because, sometimes when you're so ecstatic, you barely can actually be productive because all the things what you are just there, it's just like being enough. So this is the whole balance thing, that in the long run, you're just balancing the things. And it's super important that then you have a meeting which is stressful or something which stresses you out, whatever these unpleasant emotions, that you have some tools, which what we offer, you have tools or what you actually learned and have. And probably you can share what you are actually using when you are having an anxiety. That would be very interesting for me to hear. So you have the tools to regulate them, so they would not make the whole long run just bad. So this is the, emotional balance, such a broad definition, and I can talk ages, obviously, about that. So now, Bolt, to you. So what do you do? What is your maybe a tip then because I have anxieties as well. So, you know, sharing is caring. So you care for me if you share.
So I think that what I understood that the tool is doing and what I'm doing are quite similar. It's all about having that awareness of what's going on inside you. And from what I understood about Mindletic, that one of the things that it does, at least from what I got from the story, is that it helps you create that awareness of where you are, what you're feeling, what's going on with you. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. And
yeah, exactly.
So I think that I'm doing that, and I've learned that by going to therapy. And I spent 2 years in therapy, and that helped me learn a lot about what's happening to me, what's happening inside my head. And I think that's the main thing. That creating that awareness is the main thing, just generally on what you do that helps with anxiety.
Yes, I think exactly what you say. The reflection is one of the most important thing, and this is why we have such a big part on the, you know, reflection on this map of 100 emotions, which actually helps you to understand. So how do you feel? Somehow, as I said, like a smartwatch monitor, which monitors your fitness, so you know how you feel. You can also see after a month or after, you know, a week how you felt in the long run, and then you can see, okay, in this whole month I had a lot of energy and very pleasant, or, you know, your energy levels lower down. So yeah, reflection is definitely the very, very, very first step to do. And if you can do it, my God, then you basically are God and can do anything.
Sounds great. Let's finish then with this thought that you can be a God, and let's get over to Nina. Now it's your turn to tell us your story and your experience.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am sharing the screen. Let me present. Can you see everything?
Looks good.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'll start with saying thank you to Veronica for such a really interesting and personal story. It was very brave of you to tell it from my point of view, because my stories are going to be different. I'm going to tell true stories, but they are from my work experience, from my teammates. And the stories are going to help us and teach us how to notice smoke before it turns into a firing issue. So to notice some small hints before it turns into a serious problem. So let's start. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Nina Pivavarchyk. I am Belarusian Lithuanian who's lived in Hungary. I lived in the United States, in Belarus, and now I moved to Lithuania. Before I moved, though, no one warned me that Lithuania means a raining country, and today it was raining a lot. So I'm getting used to it, but it's okay. As I said, I live in Vilnius now. I work in HR sphere, in IT HR, for about 5 years. I've taken on different roles from HR assistant, recruitment, and now I take on a role as people and culture lead in Cortlex. I would say that I am the advisor, the people advisor for the management and the founders of the company. And I see myself more as a glue between the people and the people in the business. And so a lot of stories and people's lives goes through me, and I live personally very close to them. When hearing today's topic, I was ready to, I didn't even know what I'm going to talk about right away, but I knew I'll find something to talk about. As I said, because throughout my years, I've seen a lot, I've heard a lot, and there's a lot to share. And I really want to raise the awareness of mental health in the business place, I would say, and especially in the tech business place, because it's vital for us, I would say. So, and also this story is close to me personally due to my family history. So I take that very personally, and I'm aware of serious problems that could be caused by by mental health issues. So today I'll tell you, first I'll start with the goal, what I want to get to. then talk a little bit about the mental issues, how I see it. Then I'm going to give two true stories using different names, maybe different timing, but I am going to share details about what has happened and what I've witnessed, what I've been a part of. Then I'm going to share some signs, how to notice the mental issues with your colleagues, with your teammates, and then I'm going to give you a small algorithm that I came up with that we as tech leads should really pay attention to. So my main goal today, as I said, is to raise the awareness of how important mental issues are. And everything I talk about today will have two sides. I'm going to talk about the business, obviously, but because we are here working as tech leads, we have a team, we have a business that we want to obviously bring money to, get business to grow. And there's always the human side, the personal side, you as a person. I feel that it's important as we work closely to a lot of people to take awareness of how real these problems are and take them as real illnesses. And realize that many normal people around us actually have them. And that is the most important thing, to realize that we might not even notice. And the personal side to it is not only pay attention to your teammates, but pay attention to your loved ones, your family and friends, and maybe notice something and help someone in a timely manner. So about mental issues, I mean, there are people, obviously, most of the people, I believe, who came here today probably don't think this way, but let's just stick to the point that mental issues is not psycho, crazy person running around biting everyone. It's a completely different story. Mental issues, we need to start accepting them as a real illness. A good example that I thought of, for example, if you're working in a factory and one of your employees breaks a leg or an arm, you see that as a problem physically, obviously. And same with mental issues. Working in our sphere, our main tool is obviously our brain and all of our teammates, and your brain can break. There could be biochemical disturbances in the brain. I forgot to say from the beginning that I don't have psychological education. I'm only an enthusiasm. I read a lot. I studied a lot on podcasts, maybe some videos, books, and as I said, a lot of personal experience, but I don't have anything with like a background or official education. So I apologize for any incorrect words, but I'm only sharing my personal experience. So I'm going back to this slide, the mental issues, we need to accept them and realize that they can happen. Meanwhile, from a business point of view, it's very important to realize that they are a big risk to us. And if we don't take them into consideration, and if we don't do risk management according to what can happen if any of our employees have any mental problems, then we might lose money, projects, deadlines, and anything that happen like that. So the stories that I'm going to tell today, I call them my failures as an HR, as a person who knows about psychology and mental illness, and seeing people in my family have those problems and still failing to notice them at the right time. So I am going to start with the first story. Let's name my colleague Rachel. That's going to be the name today. Rachel worked in my team. So she's a part of our creative HR branding team that I work with. I work with her day to day, every day. I have daily stand-ups with her. We have common projects and we work very closely together. And on one of the dailies, she told me that she's been feeling a little tired recently. And I asked her why she might be feeling this way, what's happening. Meanwhile, in my head, I had that we had a very serious, big project that we've been working on, deadline coming up, and we needed to complete it to move on to the next stage in the company. So obviously, I was worried for her, but at the same time, I was worried about the project. And when she told me she's feeling tired, she's been working from home at that time for a while. And I advised her maybe she should come to the office and work sometime from there, because from me, I took it personally what I would do, because when I work from home for a while, I lose energy because I don't see the people that I'm given to. I don't see who's like, I don't get any feedback. So I told her maybe you should come to the office, work to us day to day, and you're going to feel better. So she comes to the office, but I still, in the back of my mind, see that we're not moving as fast as we should be moving, but at the same time I lose track of the idea. And then one day Rachel asks me to come to the meeting room with her to talk one-on-one. And obviously as an HR, when I hear that, I already have so many problems in my head that could happen. And when we sit down, she starts almost crying right at the spot and tells me that she physically cannot work. She said that the last few days she would sit on one task one day, not being able to move forward. And I remind you that it's a creative job position where it's kind of impossible to work and just do your tasks. There's things your brain needs to create. And yeah, she said she was crying. She said she couldn't get out of bed today, and she was crying on the way to work. And obviously at that point, the only thing we could do is get her to take a vacation right there and here. As I said, I'm not a psychologist, but she had a therapist. And as the therapist said, it was more of a burnout, a professional burnout at that point. With everything going on around us, it was very hard for her at the time to work and move on with her creative job. So all she needed to have is a nice vacation for the time being. That's what we thought. And so she went on her vacation on the next day. What do we have from a business side at that point? We had failed deadlines, obviously. Not only did our project not finish at the time, it was finished completely much later. From a personal side, and a human side, I would see that we got an employee to get to a burnout where she physically couldn't function. We could have noticed it much earlier. And she had to take a vacation for a long time, obviously, for that time in order to gain some energy, because she lost a lot for that time. And after this situation happened, she came back. She started to take on tasks little by little, but she still couldn't be as productive as she could be. Obviously, I realize now, after that, I tried to do a retrospective for myself as an HR, for the team, what we failed to notice and to have. And I talked to her personally. We realized that if I would have reacted right away when she told me that she's been feeling tired, probably her vacation could have been for less time, and it could have been more planned, where we had some backups and we would have been able to finish our project at the time. And I asked her how I could have helped her at that point. What I heard is that what she needed probably is to hear from me that she can go on vacation, and advise her to go on vacation, because she hasn't been working with us for that time, for a long time. She didn't feel like she deserved it yet because she hasn't completed much. And so because I was also her mentor, I should have been the one who promoted and gave the idea to go on vacation, and to tell her that so we can plan it in a timely manner. So that's number one about Rachel. The next one is a bit tougher one, I would say. And this is about my colleague. Her name is, let's say, Ashley. Ashley has been working for the company I was working for like 5 years at the time. And she was a really important player of the team. She was a sales and account manager. And as we know, sales is also one of the positions which is very like dangerous in case of mental health. And so her work was her everything, pretty much. She was very dedicated, loyal employee who took on any problems, any client, any sale, anything she needed to do. And she wasn't in my team, but she was in the company I was working for, and I'm responsible for all the employees in my company. And one day, one of her teammates wrote to me that Ashley has been having some eating problems, that she just hasn't been eating. And then I had a close relationship with her, so I came to her and asked, what's happening, how can I help you? And obviously at the time being, what I did, I got her to come to lunch with me. I approached her a couple of days in a row asking if she ate something. What did she eat? I like ordered the lunch and sat down and ate with her and everything like that. And then obviously I lost a little bit track. She told me that she's doing better, and she's like, I would message her and she said, yes, I already ate today and everything. And then after a couple of weeks, her manager told me that Ashley has been diagnosed with clinical depression. And if you don't know what that means, I would say you're lucky, but I would like to explain that clinical depression is not something, as people say, always they're just sad or they can't get over some problem. Clinical depression, as I said, it's a biochemical disturbance in your brain where you don't have enough hormones to actually have any positive emotion, but it's not even about the sadness. When you have clinical depression, you cannot get up, you cannot eat, you cannot physically do anything, and you just lay there pretty much, and you can't get yourself to do anything. It can be caused by external events, and sometimes more and sometimes it's more internal actually, and there's nothing a person can do about it without any negative emotions. So obviously, this story, as I said, a little tougher one. From a business point of view, we send Ashley right there on vacation as well. We didn't just send her on vacation, we sent her to get help. She has been seeing a therapist for a while at that point. And we sent her to get help. She got medicine, she got treatment, she got therapy, and she got vacation. And at the time, we lost a very important key player for a business. She had a lot of contacts, a lot of contracts, a lot of sales, and without her, chaos came upon the company. And we didn't know who to message, what to ask, and we didn't want to approach her, obviously. So for the business, it was a very big loss. And we all know about the buzz factor, of course, but I'm not sure if we ever consider such things happen. Meanwhile, from a human point of view, as I said, for me personally, because once I found out about her diagnosis, the puzzle came together for me. Everything I've known about her, the eating disorder problem. But at the time, I was like very upset with myself that I didn't even think of that, because that illness I know very well from a family point of view. And it was very upsetting that we got her to the point where she already had to get treatment. So with Ashley, we as well did a retrospective after she started feeling a little better. And I asked her what we could have done, how we from a workplace could help her. And some of the things she said, it was very important to realize for us as tech leads that from the outside, no one can ever notice that something is wrong with the person. They will only show it to themselves when they are completely alone. And she said that the time when she'd been feeling upset and not being able to do something and just getting mad at everything, she said that maybe she was PMSing, it was all her fault, she was mad at everything, and she just couldn't get herself together. Once she's been diagnosed officially by a specialist, she obviously couldn't believe it. And what would have helped her is to have at least one of her teammates, or one of the closer one, not just, for example, I had a good relationship with her, but it's important that a close person would have come up to her and ask her, how does she actually feel? Like a straight up forward question. And if someone would have told her that this could be signs of a clinical depression, that would have helped her, obviously. But no one did at the time, and no one could believe it. No one knew it. So those are the stories that I wanted to tell you. And now what do we do with this as managers, as tech leads, as just regular developers that work with our teammates? We look for the signs. These are the signs, as I said, they're not from a book, they're not from any article or scientific study. These are mostly from mine and my teammates' experience. So just look out for these signs, and then after I'll tell you what to do with them if you find them. So low productivity is number one. In my first story, I definitely noticed low productivity, but I would blame it on maybe the holiday season. I blamed it on maybe just being tired, or on not an interesting project, on other stuff. And I didn't really notice. To be honest, retelling these stories now, when I was especially thinking about them before telling, it looks like everything was right on the surface. How could I not notice these things when you're feeling like that? But being in any kind of leading and management roles, we know about how much multitasking we have, how much stuff we have in mind, how many tasks we need to complete, how many things we need to do. And we're all not robots. And unfortunately, things slip out of your mind and you just lose focus on some stuff. And then as our job is working with people, people become one of your things that you need to keep in mind. So as I said, I can't imagine how I miss them, and I can't say that I won't miss them next time, but let's try our best to notice them. So as I said, low productivity is one. If you know that the person usually works much more productive, and you see someone being low productivity, that's one sign. Lack of energy. If a person is complaining and whining a lot, that they feel tired, they don't feel good, that even after on Monday, they say they're already tired after half a day. That's another sign. Sleeping problems is another one. And sometimes it's not sleeping at all. So sometimes maybe your colleague will come to work and say, oh, I didn't sleep all night. And then another night he'll say he didn't sleep all night. And another one, that's a sign. Or maybe even oversleeping. Oversleeping, another one. Because my colleague, the second one, my teammate, in story number 2, she said she was sleeping a lot. She slept all day, all night, and she couldn't get enough sleep. All she felt like was sleeping. Another one is frequent leaves. That's something kind of easy to notice. If you see that the person taking more sick days, frequent leaves, work from home, leave without pay, and that's not usual for them, that you should pay more attention to that. Lose of interest to the things that the person loves. That was in my story number 1. I definitely noticed, because this my colleague Rachel, she was very keen on her job. She was enthusiastic. She did a lot of fun stuff. She really liked all the creativity, new ideas. And at the time, whenever we suggested anything to her, anything we told her, she didn't feel enthusiastic about it. And I couldn't really understand why. I thought maybe the ideas were bad or something. But that actually, and at the end, once we started talking, she said, I feel that I should be excited about this event that we're doing, but I'm not. And that's not normal for me. At regular time, I would be excited to take a part in something like that. So less communication and proactiveness with people who are usually proactive. In my story number 2 with Ashley, she one thing that really caused her and got her to the state where she was at was the fact that we went on lockdown. She was a salesperson who traveled all the time, had face-to-face meetings with the clients, with the employees, with everything. And at that time, she lost all of it, all the communication, all the stuff that she usually got energy from. So the fact that she lost it all was actually a big, she realized how much it actually affected her. So less communication. If you see that the person is usually active in all the parties, ideas, events, and they're for some reason quiet, then you should pay attention to it. More whining and complaining, as I said. And if we're talking about, especially about actual clinical depression, big life turning events in the personal life actually can also cause and be a big cause of such illnesses. It may be a divorce, an illness, or a death of a close person, problems in the world like lockdown or anything like that. So these are the signs. There are more, but as I said, these are the ones that I noticed for myself and wrote out. I tried to do a code, as we are on a tech lead event, for us to understand how the algorithm works. So I hope it's readable. The main one, as I said throughout my whole talk, maybe it's taking too long, I'm sorry if it is, that mental problems are real illnesses. If you are on a construction, you give your employees a helmet, right? But if you work in technology, you need to take care of your mental health of your employees, because if it breaks, then they will not be able to work. Then you look for the signs that I just went over. You especially pay close attention to people in management roles, in creative roles, in development and sales roles. Everyone is obviously can get any of these problems, but these roles are more at risk. And then if you see any of the signs from a business point of view, you must consider all the risks and imagine what will happen if tomorrow this person will be gone for 1 month. So you see all the tasks that they have on, any documents, any contacts, any communication, and you try to consider and do risk management for that point of view. Then you add someone to his or her team to back up all the information and knowledge, if that is possible, just to get somewhere to be behind them, make sure everything is okay. If it's possible, try to automate everything in the work, as in if they have any papers, if something they do by hand, and you can introduce some tools that could help, that could also work. But that's in the long term. From a business point of view, keep that in mind, because you can really lose a lot of money, projects, ideas, clients, if you do not consider that. And then from a human point of view, as I said, you need to talk to this person, either yourself or get someone who's close to them. Just come to them and ask them, how are they actually feeling? What is going on with them? Get to talk to them in a very unofficial way. As don't repeat my mistake and send them on the vacation right away. But what's important, when I talked to my colleague, to Ashley, she said it's important not to, if the person is especially in a close to depression state, not just if they're alone and you know that they're living alone, don't send them on vacation, just let them rot. I'm sorry for that word. But try to make sure they either see a therapist and see a doctor, or get them to change the scenery or go travel somewhere. Because if they're at that state, if they are left completely alone, then that's not a good idea. Because maybe for some people, it would actually be better to continue working, but just you need a different approach to their work at that time. Because staying at home alone could get work. As I said, recommend to go see a therapist, then they would get diagnosed and get medicine and treatment. And the important thing after all of this is never lose guard with these people, because that could also happen. You feel like, okay, they came back, they're energized, they probably fixed everything. But as I said, mental illnesses are not noticeable from the outside. So you can never lose guard with these people. Make sure that they are actually okay after time, have these heart-to-heart talk every once in a while. Make sure they're always seeing therapists and so on. Because you are not the doctor and they need to be talking to a doctor at the same time. So thank you for your attention. I hope after this, we all know what to pay attention to with our colleagues. You will not make the same mistakes as I did. And make sure that all of your teammates, your friends, your close one, your partners are feeling good at today.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
A couple of follow-up questions.
Yes.
So first of all, we have a question. You've talked about what to do when you're close with that person. But let's say I'm an engineer in a team and I see a colleague who's experiencing sleep problems. What do I do?
This person probably should have someone else they're close to. Probably. They either have a friend who, like another engineer, if they're not friends with you, they're friends with someone else. Obviously, they might not have anyone they're close to. Then the only right thing to do is to talk to their team lead or their manager. I think so. And of course, this is something that you need to be super careful with, because I really am still not, I would say, even experienced enough or have an idea of how to say it correctly. And if you approach the manager and the manager just straight up and says, hey, you have a depression, that's not a good idea. Make sure you talk to either the manager, or if you have an HR business partner, or a people manager of any kind, like my role, that also is actually a better person at times. So you need to make sure, if you're aware enough to realize that this person might have a problem, go find a person who would be like the right person to talk to them.
Makes sense. Next, how are mental health issues in tech businesses different than in other businesses? Or maybe there are some issues that are more prevalent in the tech businesses.
To be honest, my experience is only in the tech business. So I'm not gonna sit around and say that it's less or worse in other businesses. I know that there are a lot of other businesses where people are working with other people a lot in teams, when they have a lot of multitasking and creativity. As I said, when you always need to create something, your brain can burn out at some point. I'm not going to say which jobs are less likely to get mental illnesses, because I know every job is difficult. Every sphere has its own specific. And as I said, because I can say that it's definitely important in the tech, but I can't say it's less important in any other. Maybe Veronica has something to say about it.
Yes,
go ahead.
If I can add up. So I think we should also make differentiation of mental illness and mental health. Mental health does not equal mental illness. So mental illness, as Nina said, is something severe, it's a depression which you need to actually treat. And then, if you have an anxiety from time to time, and if you have, if you're stressed, if you have a panic attack, it's not necessarily a mental issue as of, you need to treat and go to psychiatrists in the sense, because sometimes these issues can be treated with tools, with the preventive tools. And I think, what we at Mindletic do, and I think this is a perfect thing, perfect that you talk about it afterwards. So what we do is we do our best to prevent, to predict, and prevent. And then you do, the tools, then you know how to deal with your stress levels, because, most of the biggest stress levels in the companies, usually it's in a customer support, obviously, because, you have calls and the people are not necessarily happy. And I just talked with one, probably our potential clients, and they were just saying, customer service, the guys are, the people are changing so much, and it's very hard to keep up, those. So anyhow, so I just want to, make sure that, mental issues is not equal mental health. And if you keep yourself mentally fit, if you train this muscle, emotional muscle, then you can avoid, in a way, having those mental issues. Not always, because I think Nina, what you said, if you have, in some chemistry in your brain, which not necessarily works very fine, this needs to be treated. And, you can use every tool, but not necessarily it will help.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. One final question we have is, of course, we've talked about that Mindletic could be used as a preventive tool. But what do you think about having a therapist, like a fully dedicated therapist, employed in a business?
I guess what this person means, employed. I guess what this person means in employed in the business, that the business employs a therapist, and then you can probably go and see analog, I suppose. So in case that's the case, it really depends on a culture of the business. If you have a business which is, which you obviously you are in one office and you openly talk about your mental health, about emotional health, being fit, if you have grabbed a cup of coffee, as I know from one company who's doing that and saying, well, yesterday I had a psychologist talk, we talked about this and that and so on. If you have such a culture of openness, obviously to have a therapist in a company is kind of makes sense, because, you can go to them if you want to, obviously, and talk to him. And you don't really care if someone from other teams would see it or not. Whereas if you have a company which culture is a bit more closed, that is especially for the bigger the company is, the bigger, the more close they are. So if you have that case and you have a psychologist, some maybe will see, but most probably not, because again, it's still a stigmatized topic. You want it or not, talking about mental health for a lot of people means oh, I'm weak, I show emotions, you know, I cry. I mean, boys don't cry, like never. I mean, you know, so I don't know. I think it makes sense in some cultures and some not. And if you think about tech people, and if you think about that we all work remotely, you know, I'm now in Palanga for 2 weeks, you know, in a couple of weeks I'll work from Frankfurt, whatever. I mean, so for me, obviously, I want to have everything in app. I want to have everything in my browser and to do it not an analog. So sorry if that's a very big and a large answer, but it doesn't have, you know, one straight answer to that.
Nina, do you have something to add?
I agree with Veronica. I would also add that from just my personal opinion, I feel like hiring one therapist for all the people that know each other, a lot of stories will kind of interconnect. That's never, I don't think it's a good idea. We practiced the kind of group therapy workshop in the team, and it started okay, but then as usual, no one has time, blah, blah, blah. That could work when people are coming in and ready. Those people are ready to open up in front of each other. And as Veronica said, the culture is open. So that could work. Maybe we'll give it another try. But having one therapist that everyone goes to is not the best idea. Meanwhile, I'm for promoting it and making it a part of like a social package. And actually, we're rethinking the social package for the next year. For upcoming half a year, and like replacing gym membership with like therapist coverage or something like that. Maybe a lot of companies already have that, but we're growing in that direction. Especially this year showed how important it is. Last year, I mean, it's already 2021.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And that's it for the questions. So thank you again, both of you, for sharing your experience and stories.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you so much.
That's it for today. Just a quick reminder that that was our last meetup before our summer break, and we will come back in autumn. And we hope to come back offline and see a lot of people live. If you want to speak at any future Vilnius Tech Leads events starting this autumn, you can contact me at mindaugas@vinted.com. We love to have any stories you have to share. All the stories are good, and we can learn a lot from those stories. And thank you, everyone, for listening, and hope to see you in autumn then. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.